Good morning. I'm Pastor John, and I'd like to share with you a book that's taken me over 30 years to write. It's called Do You Still Believe in Miracles? An Apologetic Expose by a Liberal Bible-Believing Pastor. First, a little bit about me. I began serving in the local church in 1995. I am also a board-certified chaplain. I've been serving in a hospital setting, trauma primarily as a crisis chaplain for nearly 20 years, and I have a doctoral ministry from Ashland Theological Seminary. Between my wife and I, we have 5 children, 1 grandchild, 3 dogs, and a cat. The easiest way to begin an introduction to the book, Do You Still Believe in Miracles, is simply to read the back, and then I wanted to share the book with you. Do You Still Believe in Miracles? And it is an apologetic expose by a liberal Bible-believing pastor, is written from an insider's perspective, reflecting on the teaching that I experienced in a liberal, postmodern, progressive seminary from 1993 to 1996. The book explores these teachings and explains why predictable outcomes occur. It exposes how the fruits of these teachings are currently being experienced in society, within some churches, and in the political world. As an alternative, I present a renewed orthodox understanding of the Christian faith and an invitation to welcome Jesus into the personal life adventure of every reader. Let's begin. Beginning the conversation. Meditation verse, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 16b. Each part, working properly, promotes the body's growth in building itself up in love. If you have experienced reading a Bible written in your own language, then find a liberal Christian and say thank you. For there was a time in Christian history when reading a Bible in one's language was an idea espoused by the liberal Christian, and such an idea was too risky within the more conservative or orthodox voices within the Christian choir. The purpose of this conversation is not to belittle the liberal Christian. Rather, the purpose is to passionately and powerfully uplift biblical truth. Simply the truth of one pastor and the experiences of this Bible-believing, evangelical, liberal pastor who is called to live and serve within a liberal branch of the Christian family. In this way, there are times when this conversation might take on an expose feel, since some of the situations and teachings encountered within a liberal seminary education and within the liberal church are hard to imagine and might seem unbelievable if they were not personally experienced. Therefore, my intention is for a much-needed wake-up call for many faithful persons within liberal veins of Christianity by offering a peek behind the scenes of the inner workings of the liberal church. In this way, this conversation, on a personal level, will be added to the developing, conservative, orthodox, Bible-believing, confessing movements within my own denomination, as we struggle within the church to resuscitate the soul of the denomination. Further, it is my prayer that this honest opening might inspire dialogue within other branches of the Christian family, point out variations in thought that have led away from the living vine of Christ, and finally urged the liberal voices within the Christian family to rediscover free grace as the foundation for all that we do. I have been in ministry for over 30 years and have served as a United Methodist pastor and a hospital chaplain in the metropolitan area. My seminary education was at the Methodist Theological School in Ohio from 1993 to 1996. Several mandatory classes that I took during my seminary education were taught by professors who were very proud of their membership in the Jesus Seminar. The Jesus Seminar and the ideas of this group will be discussed in detail in the chapter The Quest for Christ and the Reality of Jesus. The United Methodist Church in the United States is part of the liberal voices within the broader Christian family. This may not be the reality within the pews of the local church. However, it is very much the reality within the context of the current United Methodist discipline and much of the, quote, leadership of the church. The United Methodist Church and other liberal denominations have traveled similar paths, have slowly drifted away from the core social adoration of God union, which is the heart of the movement's gift to the broader Christian community and the world itself. This social adoration of God union has drifted away from free, universal, responsible grace that is the truth of Jesus, which is found in the canonical Gospels and the canonical Bible cherished by so many. Too often, free grace has seemed like cheap grace, as the significance of the cross of Christ has been de-emphasized. Too often, universal grace has developed into a much smaller vision of inclusion, which by its very nature means that while including some, others are also now on the outside, looking in. Too often, responsible grace has taken on a witness that seems an awful lot like relative grace, where everything goes, but nothing really matters. And the meaning and joy found in responsible grace is lost. One of the realities I experienced time and time again as a pastor in the local church and as a hospital chaplain is the faithfulness of individuals, the peace that passes understanding, and the faith that hopes beyond reason. Another is the true astonishment and sadness found with many of the local churches that are continuing to lose members. Some of these, usually smaller churches, are closing, and many others, try as they might, are often failing to attract new, younger members into the life of the church. Later in the chapter, Inclusiveness and Universality, I will examine some of the staggering membership trends within liberal and conservative Orthodox denominations in the church. Time and time again, as a pastor with the local church I have served, I have heard about methodologies for growing the church. The book, 5 Practices of Faithful Congregation, written by Robert Schnaes, a United Methodist bishop serving in the Missouri Conference, is a perfect example of the focus on methodology. Schnaes' book offers methods that the local church can perform to attract new persons. Much of the book can be helpful and lead to fruitful work and new programming. However, his book never touches upon the theological reasons for the incredible difficulties found in church growth within liberal church settings. Sooner or later, Christians read their Bibles and then question the official positions of the broader church. And seeing incongruencies, these people choose to travel down the road to another church where things seem more open and in line to what they have found within their personal Bible readings, thus leaving the faithful member of the local liberal church ever more saddened. Further, spontaneous responses of sheer joy are rarely found within larger gatherings, and especially within the liberal leadership of the church. In fact, many times spontaneous responses of sheer joy within large church gatherings are seen with suspicion or somehow inauthentic or overly emotional. I believe this occurs because of a drifting away from free grace into a position where individual works are elevated again and again. All this means is faithful people, many times colleagues and personal friends, might be putting in longer and longer hours working within their local church, and yet are seeing less and less results from their labor and experiencing fewer and fewer moments of sheer joy. My final hope is that a constructive dialogue with liberal voices within Christianity will lead to a new discovery of free grace and a renewed union of social action, God adoration. This rediscovery, this reformation, can allow the liberal veins of the Christian church to return to their first love once again and be the much-needed blessing to the world, which is part of the liberal church's long, rich, and fruitful history. Part 2. This book is a book within a book. The first half of the book was completed in 2008 and is the writing of a Bible-believing liberal pastor continuing to process his seminary experience and come to terms with teachings that seemed unusual and even outside the lines of Orthodox faith. As a young pastor, I believe that these ideas were limited to the confines of the seminary and therefore not be found in the leadership of the United Methodist Church. When I completed the first half of this apologetic, I tried the traditional ways to publish a book, including the United Methodist Publishing House, Abington Press. The book was turned down. Today, in the fall of 2024, I am returning to write a follow-up. I am writing this second half because teachings that I had experienced that seemed unusual and even outside the lines of Orthodox faith are now prevalent throughout all aspects of the United Methodist Church. They can be found within the episcopacy, many clergy, and even in the local church. For the past 50 years, the United Methodist Church has been embroiled in a debate concerning homosexuality and the place of homosexuality within the church. As a result, my experience was anytime anyone would try to raise concerns about the theological teachings found within some areas of the church, including the denial of the virgin birth, the bodily resurrection of Jesus, and the Trinity, these arguments would be shut down and censored. Often those seeking debate and theological clarification would be labeled as anti-gay, bigoted, and hateful. On May 1st, 2022, the United Methodist Church experienced a schism, and a new denomination called the Global Methodist Church was launched. The Global Methodist Church seeks to be a global church that represents a traditional understanding of marriage between one man and one woman, and resides firmly within an Orthodox understanding of the Wesleyan tradition. This means the Global Methodist Church affirms the virgin birth, the bodily resurrection of Jesus, and the Trinity. It is my prayer that this apologetic can now be heard within the United Methodist Church and spur debate that concentrates on theological understandings and the ramifications that are predictably lived out when traditional Orthodox teaching of the Church are jettisoned and denied. This is not to say that the entire United Methodist Church and their doctrine has jettisoned an affirmation of the virgin birth, the bodily resurrection of Jesus, and the Trinity. At the same time, this apologetic demonstrates that it would be dishonest to claim that in some areas of the United Methodist Church, both at a seminary level and at times within positions of leadership within the church, there are occasions when the virgin birth, the bodily resurrection of Jesus, and the Trinity have been denied or reinterpreted in a way not conducive to Orthodox Christian theology. It is also my prayer that those in the Christian family who have chosen not to jettison and deny traditional Orthodox teachings of the Church will be encouraged to boldly proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ to a world in need. For God is faithful and good and remains very active in the lives of people within the body of Christ, the Christian Church, and within human history. Questions for review, reflection, and discussion. Question 1. What is the core of the liberal Christian movement and the subsequent gift to the broader Christian community and the world? 2. What is the meaning of grace as understood through Jesus and found in the canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the books of the New Testament? 3. What is often lost in larger gatherings within the liberal church today, and especially within liberal leadership of the church? What do I suggest is the reason for this? What are your thoughts? Question 4. How have discussions concerning theology been consistently shut down by leadership within the United Methodist Church?